presentation, I can say that my research area currently is actually in cloud computing area, because my PhD was in regarding cloud computing. So I work in cloud computing, and each has many forms like mobile cloud computing, media cloud computing. Then I work in wireless sensor network, and I moved then to sensor network and cloud computing integration. So this and IPTV and multimedia. So this is overall my research topic. So I published more than 50 publications in this area up to now, and still we are doing good research. So here is the topic. First is what is a technical paper. Second is how to read a technical paper. This second one I will focus more, because what I understand from other presentations that they did not focus too much on reading the paper. They focus mostly on how to write the papers, like conference and journal. So I will tell you most important thing before writing a paper is how to read the paper, because if you don't read carefully, then you cannot get the idea to write the paper. Then I will focus on contents of a technical paper. I think this one already covered by Dr. Ahmed Yusuf. Then writing style, then some strategy of good paper and summary. So technical paper already Dr. Ahmed Yusuf and Dr. Samir, he already told that, and you know already that there are survey papers, journal paper, research paper, conference paper. There are some letter also. Okay, small letter, 2-3 page. This also can be published as a journal. We call it a letter. So first, the most important thing before doing any research is how to read papers. So this is very important, because you can find lots of paper in IEEE if you go Explorer, many paper. So actually, and you can download many paper, for example. But the then question comes, how you read these papers? So whether I read full paper, whether I read some part of the paper, actually what is the procedure that I should focus? This is very important, because this is the starting point of your research. So you have to know that how we can quickly find the idea of the full paper, and you can utilize it in your research. So that's why I'll focus on this first. And see our slide, the first point is, should not read everything. So you can say, doctor, should not read everything? What does this mean? I will not read the full paper? So the answer is that you don't need to read the full paper, not all paper. So why? Because one paper may be 15 page. For example, you download 20 papers. Each paper contains 15 page, right? So if you read this whole paper, it will take many of your time. So what is the procedure actually? The first one is know what's going on. That means scan. What is scan means what? Title, abstract, authors. Because sometimes you have to figure out with your supervisor that which topic, which area you want. For example, if I am a supervisor, my student will focus on, cloud computing. Cloud computing is a big area, right? So in this area, I cannot work on everything. So I told my student, I will focus on the resource allocation of cloud computing. So see, I already limit his area that you will focus on resource allocation on cloud computing. Based on this topic, he will download many papers from the IEEE, from the ACM Digital Library, from the Springer, from the Science Direct. He download, for example, 20-30 papers. Then he will start to scan. So what he or she will do? Introduction, motivation, solution description, summary. See, most important, as I told you from the beginning, I'll tell you that every paper, if you want to know what is actually in the paper, you must read the introduction. Introduction will tell you almost everything inside the paper. So that is, you have to read very, very carefully. That is very important. When you read any paper, introduction, motivation, or the abstract, these things will tell you actually what is the paper about, what is their contribution, what is the novelty they make inside the paper. That's very important for you. So if you can understand this one, and you think that this one is matched with your idea, then you can go some other detail. What is the detail? Like you can see their solution, like algorithm. For example, resource allocation algorithm. So you can read that one. Sometimes reading more details useful, but not always. See this sentence. Now, you can ask, doctor, then which paper I'll read more? So, or full detail? Yes. If you have 20 papers, if you just scan those papers, as I told you, you read the introduction, try to find out that the idea you like this paper or not. Only those paper you like, and you see your supervisor that, okay, these 3-4 paper is very good one, and I think we can have some extension possible. So I will read this paper. So only those 3-4 paper you write, you read all, each and every line you can read, but not all paper. And you will find that you can find always the 3-4 paper which are very much related, and you have the chance to improve. Because you know, all papers in the introduction, they most of the time focus on what is the problem of this paper and what is the solution they provide. So this is the most important thing. So when I was doing my PhD in Korea, my professor always told me that you have not much time to read every sentence of the paper. What you do, you select one paper, okay, you read the introduction, most probably maybe some summary of the paper like conclusion. If you have the introduction, read, clearly understand, what you do, make a slide, that means PPT slide, put the paper name, then write the problem statement of the paper and write the solution of the paper. Just two. So if you do this, you can understand, okay, this paper focus on this topic, this area of resource allocation, for example, and this is their solution. This is one paper. Then take another paper, okay? Then read the introduction. If you think the introduction is not clear for you, then you go for some solution, okay? What is the solution they did? Okay, they did this kind of algorithm. You little bit understand, then you write, okay, this is the one. And you read those papers fully when you find out that when you have some scope to improve those papers. Like in the introduction, they consider many things, but for example, they do not consider some other parameters. So after reading some papers, from 5, 6, 10 papers, you can understand that, okay, this paper consider this thing, this paper do not consider this thing, or this paper do not consider. So if I consider these parameters in this topic, I can improve the paper. So those papers which are related to your interest, only read those papers fully. And for the initially, for example, you are doing some research, you don't know how to write a paper. So what we did initially in our life, that we find a good paper as a model paper. Okay, this is my model paper. I like this paper, and my supervisor said that this is a very good paper. So you follow the structure. Okay, how this paper write? What is the sentence they make? How the style of the writing? We will talk about this style. So just I will tell you just briefly that time you can do it. Now, what to note? Okay, after reading, what you will do, as I told you already, like theme of the solution, that we should be able to go back to the paper if you need. So approach to performance evaluation, note any shortcomings. So that means after reading the introduction and some solution, you can understand that, okay, this paper focus on this, they evaluate their performance in this way, and the paper has this problem. This problem is what? Based on the 4 or 5 papers, you can understand that, okay, this paper consider this thing, this paper does not consider that thing. That could be the shortcoming of the paper. So before reading, when you read the paper, the first important thing I'm again telling you, read the abstract, read the introduction. If you understand from the introduction that, okay, I understand the problem and the solution, then you don't need to go too much detail in the paper. But if you think that, no, in the introduction I don't understand clearly the method, what they say, then go for the solution. Read something. And most importantly, of our research article, actually, technically, most important is the performance evaluation. You can try in such area that you try to find out that what is that means how did those papers do the simulation. It's also very important. When you write a technical paper, at the end you must have the performance evaluation. And many students also we face problem initially. Okay, for example, I have very good idea, but when I come to the simulation, I stuck. Oh, how I do the simulation? Oh, I did not understand before writing that this idea cannot be implemented or not. So this problem you will face, every student generally they will face when they go for the performance evaluation or simulation. Because maybe they deserve their idea, they organize their idea, but they don't think that how we can simulate. This is very important that when you have some idea, you have to find out after that some papers that based on your idea how you can implement what the performance evaluation or what tool they use. This is very important when you write a technical paper, when you organize your idea. So before, when you read the paper, you can also check what is the simulation tool or how they simulate. Just 3-4 lines. And every paper they should mention that how they simulate. Okay, they simulate using the synthetic data. That means they randomly generate the data. Or they get the data from somewhere. Because within this time, if you read many technical papers, I think most of you have the option that you read many papers already. So you can see that there are two types of simulation people did normally. One is they use the random data. That means they use some mathematical function. They assume that, okay, my experiment result, which data, for example, I'm telling you example, resource allocation in cloud computing. So resource allocation, we need some allocation, that means resource allocation, you can say request. So the request, how can the user request for the resource allocation? So this can be done using simulation, or this can be done by getting the real data from some cloud provider or some website like Google. They have some trace data. Trace means this kind of request come to the cloud for the user. So they give some request pattern that, okay, maybe 10,000 user actually did the request, and the request pattern is like this. So there are two types of paper possible. One is, in your case, you can find that there is no real data. Okay, for example, you work in image processing, then you work in video surveillance. You can find many video surveillance data online. They have their free. For that researcher, you can use it. So you can take the data and apply your algorithm and find the result. Some case you do not find any data. That time you can use some mathematical function and say that our data follow this mathematical function. For example, Gaussian function. For example, normal distribution. Okay. Then based on the distribution, you generate the data. Then you apply your algorithm and say that our result is like this, because we assume that most of the data or most of the experiment the data which our algorithm will apply, they focus on normal distribution. So that's why when you read the paper, you read introduction, you read some little bit solution description, and check the performance. That, okay, how they did the simulation. Because in the introduction of the simulation, the experiment result, they mention what they did. Okay, we did the simulation this way. We used this software for this. Okay, then we used this kind of tool to simulate our environment. So, or they will mention, of course, that they will take this data from this website. They'll mention everything. So this is very important, because you will face problem after finalizing your one, that how we can simulate, what tool we can use. So this is very important in your reading. Then, okay, so you know already, those professors already discussed with you, I think, that the greatest ideas are worthless if you keep them to yourself. That means main focus of our writing is we have to communicate our idea to the reader. Okay, I wrote here, we like a virus, you will infect the mind of the reader using your idea. That this is your idea, reader will feel very comfortable. Okay, that okay, this is a very nice idea. So this is our main task. And factors affecting writing a good paper. Okay, so when you write a good paper, the good paper must contain that good research results. You need to be focused, very important. You need to be focused. You have to be careful. Okay, then you have to organize the paper, writing style. I'm telling you again, writing style organization is very, very important. You may see many paper, idea is very simple, but they write in a beautiful way. That the paper is accepted in the journal. But idea is very simple. But what is their creativity? That they organize the paper in very good way, they write very good way. That's why the paper is accepted. So here I will also show you some example that how you can make the paper good. Okay? Maybe I don't know other professor, like I did not see the presentation of Dr. Samir, so I cannot say anything what he presented. So I'm just telling you what I understand. So when you write your idea, very important is you have to mention what is your problem. Very important. And what is the problem you're going to address in this paper. Very important. And you mention this is very important problem, and many researchers try to solve the problem. Okay? Then this is your idea, and this idea works in this way. This is some kind of general description. Now, if you're ready to write a paper, then first question comes is, what type of paper I will write? You write conference or journal or letter or survey? As Dr. Samir already mentioned, survey needs huge kind of paper reading, like more than 100 papers you have to read. So for the people who do the PhD work, they should go for the survey paper, or the master thesis student who will do the thesis for 2 years, 1 year. Okay, they can go, but not recommended for them. So then the question will be, what do I wish to state? So you have to find out with the supervisor which area you will work, what will be the problem statement you will focus on. Okay, then when you write, you have to find out, do I have the all background? That means did your background survey very good or not? Then how you organize the paper? Then which format I will use? I'll use LaTeX, I'll use Word. So because I don't know that many of you are famous with the LaTeX one, but I think most of you are famous with the MS Word. So if you have question, I will answer you later on about the LaTeX. For most of the beginner, we will prefer MS Word. Now, this is already, I think, described by what I saw the presentation of Dr. Ahmed Yusuf. He already described all this thing, but you know this thing. But I will tell you most of one important thing here. That is title. You know about title, right? I'll focus on abstract. You already know. I'll focus on here, introduction, because I saw that they already just presented. But I want to emphasize again. Why, you can ask? Because when I, as a PhD student, when I joined in my university in Korea, so because before joining, because we have no experience in research, so we thought that in introduction, okay, we can write many things, like a story, because we can, we have a habit to write a big kind of literature paper, okay, like an essay. We can write, okay, this is not technical paper. So because we don't have the experience, we thought that what to write introduction? Okay, we can write in many things. So in the introduction, actually, previously I wrote everything what is needed. But actually after that I found that no, the professor say you cannot write this thing. This is not a literature paper. This is a technical paper. You should focus on something. And when the reviewer read your paper in the introduction, okay, they will ask you many questions if you don't follow the rule. So I am telling you my practical experience. My first journal paper, when I write in 2008, I submitted to the paper in Journal of Supercomputing, Springer, very good journal. So I submitted the paper. The work was very good, but as I told you, we don't have the experience to write a good paper initially. So when I submitted, after 7 months, they gave the review of 6 pages, and there were 60 questions about the paper. And in the 60 question, almost 10 or 20 question was about the introduction. That we do not understand the introduction, what you write. We do not understand about the contribution you write. Please rewrite the introduction whole. So they gave me a total 5 reviewer. They gave me total 6 or 7 page review, and the total question I have to answer is 60. And by the help of Almighty Allah, at last the paper was finally accepted. It is an ISI journal, so it is accepted after I answered the 60 questions. So that time I was really upset, but I able to come up with this one, that okay, this is the way I should write a paper. And from that I know that every reviewer who read your paper, they know when you write the introduction, they try to find out that your introduction should contain this thing. As I told you, most of the good person, like other good professor, they write the introduction, when? At the last of the paper. They don't write in abstract first. They don't write introduction first. They write related work, summary, everything, research problem, everything done. After that, they write the introduction. Because introduction is the main of your paper. Your paper will be accepted or rejected mostly based on the introduction. Because if your introduction is good, your problem description and solution is good, the reviewer will feel interest to read other part of the paper. Otherwise, they will reject the paper right away. That this is not a very good paper, the idea is not novel, they did not clearly present, so paper is almost rejected. And also, when we review the paper, we first focus on the introduction. That whether your introduction is clearly mentioning what we want. So as I told you, that's why I am focusing on introduction, that this is very, very important, and you have to know the rule of the introduction. If I tell you now the rule of the introduction, and you print this one with you, and when you write your paper, if you follow the introduction, then you can write a very good introduction. Because as I told you, my personal experience, that I faced this problem, that I do not know that time what I will write in the introduction. You can ask what I can write. I will start with the introduction. I will write my problem, or how do I follow the step by step. The introduction always have some certain rule you have to follow. If you write this, then the people who read the paper, he will understand your problem very well. So see here, I'm telling you, define the problem. Okay, I'm telling you the short thing because we have time problem, I think. So I will tell you the most important thing here, that is this one. Okay. Stanford InfoLabs patented 5-point structure for introduction. See, Stanford University, that lab, they published this one as a patent. They patent this idea that in the introduction of any technical paper, you should follow this rule. If you follow, then you don't need to tell your supervisor, okay, professor, what I will write in the introduction. If you follow this rule, these 5 points in introduction, then it is covered. Your introduction is the most beautiful, and any reviewer who will read your paper, he will clearly understand about your paper. So first one is, what is the problem? Problem means, like my case, resource allocation is a big problem in cloud computing. Your case, maybe data mining, whatever research you do, this is your problem. Then, what is it interesting and important? So resource allocation is important. Why? You should write. So 2, 3, 4 line or 1 para should be, what is the problem? Why is it interesting? Because if your problem is not interested, then people will not feel. They will just say, okay, this is not related to our topic, or this is not related to the conference. So they will reject your paper. So you should write that. Always when you do the research, try to find out which is the hot topic nowadays. That is your problem. The hot topic is cloud, and most of the people are doing research on resource allocation in cloud. So resource allocation is the hot topic and major problem now in cloud. And because this is important, because of this reason. So your 1 para is done in the introduction. Now, why is it hard? That means, why do resource allocation, currently people did many work, right? But why it is also, you are doing also the research, why? Why they don't clearly, that means, find a good solution. That means, why has not been solved before? Or what's wrong with previous proposed solution? So, first para will be about the problem. It's very interesting because of this reason. It's very important for this reason. Then you write that currently or previous literature, or currently there are many solutions to solve this problem, or currently the researchers are doing research on this problem. However, there are some major limitations exist in those problems. So you generally write the problem, why this solution still exists, why the other works people did cannot, why the approach proposed by other people cannot be applicable directly. What is the limitation? So you should write this. After this one you write, what are the key components of your approach? Then you write that, okay, this is the approach of others, they did this way, they did this way, however, they have the limitations. So in this paper, we try to address this problem, and this is our contribution is, then you write a contribution, we propose a new idea, we propose this way, we integrate this, or we consider this kind of parameter which can improve the performance of this one. Then you write that after this one, you describe the little bit of your idea, then you write that we compare this idea with these papers, or this algorithm, and we found that our one achieved performance like this. Okay? And you can also write, like the last line see in my slide, also include any specific limitations. You can write also, however, the limitation of our proposed approach is that this. So if you follow this structure, I'm telling you again, like last time I have the experience, so I then follow this one, then my paper was actually finally accepted. So even if you follow this one, then you don't need to ask anybody that, okay, professor, how I write the introduction, what I will write in the introduction. So the rule is already there. You write the problem, you write why it's important, then you write what the other people do, why their approach is not correct yet, what is their problem in their approach. Then you write what is the new thing you want to propose. Okay? If you just follow this one, 100%, your introduction will be very nice. Then you can easily, you don't need to go around that what I will write, okay, I will write, how we write. So you just organize in this way. And most of the thing is, when you write a paragraph, because in the paper, there's a paragraph, 1 para, 2nd para, 3rd para, 4th para something. You must think that your first para, when you start, the 2nd para should have some relation. That means this cannot be a chunk. That means separate thing. You tell something in first paragraph, 2nd para you said some other thing which is not relation to the first para. Very important, because this is called the chronology. Because when the reader reads the paper, he will try to find out the relation from the first para to second para. Because sometime I also did in my previous PhD that I wrote many things, but it's not correct because I did not maintain the chronology. So I read the introduction again, try to match that, okay, I tell something in first para, then I move to the second paragraph, then I move to the third paragraph, and there is a relation between first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph. So that the reader can, because your paper will read by some other people, right? As I told you before, your idea should be, what is your goal? Your idea will infect the mind of the reader. So to infect the mind of the reader should understand what you are telling in each paragraph. And there should be some relation. So very important that you will mention the relationship between the paragraphs. This is very important. Then easily understand by any reader, oh, okay, this is very nice paper. Because the reader said, I understand the paper. They wrote very good way. So this is very important thing. When you write the introduction or all other sections, you should maintain this. Okay, this is the most important thing. I believe that this is not clearly mentioned by other researchers. So I just, again, or if they mention, I also focus on to you because this is the most important thing. You will face problem when you write your paper because this is the one which will help you to accept or reject the paper, as I told you. Because many of the reviewers don't have much time to read the other parts of your paper, like total in detail of your simulation. Because those people, reviewer who review your paper, because the papers is usually sent to those people who are expert in this field. So if I'm expert in historical question, if you send any paper, if I read the introduction of the paper, I can easily understand that what is your idea and what is the novelty you've done. So if it is not good, I'll just say, okay, no, this is the same idea already published. So what I'll give you the review, I will give you a review that this idea is almost similar to the current one. You do not contribute. Your contribution is very small. So I reject the paper. I don't need to read, your simulation or related work or whatever. Because I am the expert, so the paper come to me, so I'll just read the introduction and I can find out. If I find that no, your introduction, I saw some novelties there, then I'll go for the simulation. Then I'll go for first your approach, where you mentioned that your proposed idea, your algorithm, your something. Then I'll read this one. Then I'll be interested. Then I'll give you some comments. So introduction, very, very important to you. Please remember this. Whatever you write, introduction is the must. You have to be clear and write everything. Okay, see, as I told you here, in the introduction, most important thing is after you write introduction, this one, contributions. See the example. Okay, the contribution very important. Like here I told you, this line. What are the key components of my approach and results? Okay, this one you can write in this way. Can you see this one? We explain, see, in this paper, we put the concern like this. So if you do this bullet way, this is a very good option. See this line. Do not leave the reader to question what your contributions are. See, you write such a way in the paper that when I read the introduction, I don't understand actually what is your contribution. So if you clearly mention like this, contribution, okay, 1, 2, 3, bulleted form, it's easy for the reader, okay, this is the contribution he wants to or she wants to present in his paper. Okay, this is the paper. Okay, I understand that this is a good work. Then she or he, then the reviewer will read other parts of the paper. So it's very important that I always try to use this kind of bullet form, or if you don't use bullet, but you should write such a way that I don't want the reviewer don't have the time to guess that what's your contribution. If many of you have submitted some paper, maybe you get the review, like I got the review sometime that we do not understand clearly your contribution. Please clarify your contribution. So what I did, then I changed the contribution. I clearly mentioned them like this way, so that they can understand. So it's very important, okay, for you that in the introduction, you must clearly mention this thing. And based on introduction, your paper will be accepted, as I told you before. So very, very careful about this. Okay, just related work, he already told, other professor. I just tell you one of the most important thing, I don't know whether focus or not. In the related work, very important, careful, listen, that you present the work of them, but you should mention that why their work and the advantage and disadvantage of their problem. Very important, because sometimes what we do not read the papers, those papers, carefully. We just write that, okay, in this paper, the author said this, finish. In that paper, author said this, finish. In this paper, author said it's finished. Then this is a kind of laundry list, like here. See, I write here. Do not write a laundry list, okay? Do not bash the reference. Bash means you do not give the hurt that, okay, these authors did nothing. Don't say any kind of this word. Don't include irrelevant reference. So what we did, very important related work is, whatever you write in a related work, you can mention them, but most important thing the reviewer wants is that, what is the problem of the related work, that reference you mentioned, what is the advantage, the disadvantage. For example, here you see the example. Into research, someone described the meaning of life. Okay, see, this was the description I mentioned. And what I mentioned after that, however, the research formula fails for technology below something. So see, I first told that, okay, what is he did? I can also say that, okay, this is a very good work on this area. However, the limitation of this work is this. This is correlated work. If you just write, the people did this, the second people did this, third people did this. This is not the related work. The related work means that you should write this related work and you say that why your work is important or why your work is different from them. Like here, see the second one. However, someone did this. In this paper, we extend their formula. That means now you are saying that why your paper is different from the above work. So there are two ways you can do. One is you can propose some related work. For example, you know that, okay, 5 related work in 1, in 2, in 3, in 4. The authors says this thing. After that, you can write that. However, all those previous work, they do not consider this thing. If they have some commonality, you can say that, okay, the above approaches or above proposed researches, they do not consider this thing. So in this paper, our work is different in this way that we consider this thing. This is called related work. Okay, please, maybe you know all this, but I am telling you again, emphasizing, this is called related work. That means you can write line by line, like you can write, okay, in 1, the author said this, however, did this, however, they have this problem. In 2, the authors did this, however, they have this problem. You can write this way, or you can find out that if those papers are similar problem exist, you can mention the paper, their work, and second paragraph, you can write that, however, above approach have this problem. So our paper differentiate among them is this. So be careful, always in your related work, you must write why your work is different from others. This is the most important. Okay, related work finish. You know this one, section, subsection, you just, section, subsection you can write. Then you can write this thing, proposed technique. You already know that you should write this. Okay, you write this one, application of proposed technique. Okay, now you know the technique. I told you that in the proposed technique, you can write 1, 2, 3, section 1, section 2, section. This is very good way you can represent your idea. This is okay. But now we come to the result section. Very important, result. Okay? Result section, what you will write. You can ask, doctor, what I will write in the result section. Very important. Results will be, first you can write, as told by Dr. Samir others, that you should try to put more graph. That means graphical representation. Okay? You should write, but that graphical representation, when you write there, okay, figure 1 this, you should explain each figure. For example, you have 5 figure, you must mention that what the 5 figure shows, and in this figure, actually, what you want to say in this figure. You don't mention like, okay, in figure 1, we show that, in figure 1, you can see that the graph is this. Finish. No. After this, you must write that some conclusion from this figure. And in this figure, we can see that our approach is better than previous one because of this reason. This is called discussion. So very important when you write the results. Okay, figure you know already, caption. Okay, before that there is one, I will tell you. Okay, proposed technique, the simulation setup. Okay, when you write the experiment, you should write the simulation setup. Very important. To make like simulation setup means, okay, in this paper, we simulate our idea based on this tool, or we gather the data from this website, or you have to write this one clearly, okay? Or this software is used and set up, like if you work in wireless sensor network, you have to write, okay, we did the simulation using network simulator 2. In the simulator, this is the table, we assume, okay, number of sensor node, number of this, okay? So you have described this one. I think you already know when you read these papers, you saw that people already did. So this is the one you have to understand how they read. Okay, that this is called simulation. And you should write, most important is, what are the metrics you want to compare? Very important. That means, which is the comparison metrics, like, okay, number of nodes, or like scalability, like number of nodes increase. This kind of metric you have to write when you write the simulation part. Very important. Then result discussion. Okay, I told, and conclusion. Conclusion is, remember that conclusion abstract. Okay, don't copy the abstract in the conclusion. Okay, we did previously. First time when you write paper, we say that conclusion is same. Okay, just copy. So we just copy the abstract in the conclusion, but no. Later you understand that no, this is problem. We got the review, that no. Conclusion, you write the similar thing like abstract, but not the same sentence. So what you will write in the conclusion? You write again the major advantage of your technique. Don't just see, just repeat the introduction abstract. Just repeat it. See, I already mentioned. So re-emphasize the novelty of your research work. Another sentence. Write down the limitations, okay, and write down the suggestions to improve our future work. So conclusion will contain your advantage, not same like similar, but not same sentence of the introduction or abstract, and then you write some limitations of your research and write some future work. And reference, you know the references already, so okay. I don't know whether those professors already told you this one. Very important is the language. Always use present tense or past tense. Past is used normally when we write the simulation result. Like see here, we have some example. Like here, for example, we observed that the expression of something was increased. This was your experiment results you did, but now you are describing it. This suggests that, this is a present tense. So normally we write research paper in present tense, but when we write that simulation or experiment result, we can say that we did this experiment. Then after doing this, when you write the result, you write in present tense. Okay, this is very important. So present tense is more immediate and indicators that a process is ongoing. So this is very important. When you write in present tense. Okay, just visually look, see, this is a very look of the paper, okay, like, see, this look very good. So you will try always to make this kind of thing, so that it cannot be a boring paper, that, okay, just sentence and this paragraph, no, so you should make a paper like this, see, some kind of bulleting, some kind of space, some kind of figure, so this could be a good look of the paper. Okay, before sending the paper to the journal or conference, whatever, have the paper read by separate people. You must give the paper to the supervisor or other your friends, because sometimes it's happen always 100% that you will not find the error in your paper. Okay? Or what you do? Okay, after writing something, you put the writing. After 1 week, again read the paper. Then you will see that there is some problem. So this is one way that you can improve your paper. Okay? You can spelling figure. Okay? Okay. Some strategy to write a good paper. First one is identify the novelty of the research work, study related work, compare your approach, identify the current problem, find how to overcome the limitations. Very important. This is the most important things you have to consider when you read any paper. That what is your idea? Is this idea is good? What is the current problem? What is the limitation? So can I improve the limitations? Something like this. Then list down the strength and weakness of the technique. Like, okay, do not allow reviewers to attack your weakness. See? So you just write out, okay. Because sometimes, when we write the paper, we do not hide our limitation. But if you give the review, the reviewer can say, okay, your paper had this over limitation, but you did not mention it. So it's better that you should mention that, okay, our paper has this limitation. Okay, provide a good analysis of the research result, like this. So, summary, if you do not remember anything, just remember this thing. Identify your idea, make your contributions explicit, use examples to describe the idea. Okay, summary. Thank you for listening my presentation. If you have any question, you can ask.